Week 6. Day 36, on pushing your limits step by step. That day, for no particular reason, I decided to go for a little run. So I ran to the end of the road. And when I got there, I thought maybe I'd run to the end of town. And when I got there, I thought maybe I'd just run across Greenbow County. And I figured, since I run this far, maybe I'd just run across the great state of Alabama. And that's what I did. I ran clear across Alabama. For no particular reason, I just kept on going. I ran clear to the ocean. And when I got there, I figured, since I'd gone this far, I might as well turn around, just keep on going. When I got to another ocean, I figured, since I'd gone this far, I might as well just turn back, keep right on going. Forrest Gump. There's no law stating that if you want to build self-discipline, you need to immediately wake up at 4 in the morning, eat nothing but vegetables and fruits, work productively for 12 hours, 7 days a week, and abstain from every pleasure, trying to mimic the life of a medieval ascetic. Setting aside the fact that most of these habits are not necessary to become self-disciplined, self-control isn't built in one day. You're building it step by step, starting from an easy challenge, and then building on top of it. Don't feel anxious or guilty that you begin your exercise plan with a 5-minute walk, or that you commence your new nutrition plan with the resolution that you'll add 1 vegetable and subtract 1 candy bar a day. Try it, see what happens, and if it works out, set a bigger challenge. Nothing else is needed to begin the journey to a new you. Day 37. On initial resistance. It is easier to resist at the beginning than at the end. Leonardo da Vinci. To avoid procrastination at work, I use a rule I like to call the 0-second rule. The moment I realize that I'm wasting my time to avoid work, I immediately stop whatever unproductive thing I'm doing and start working. If I let myself ponder whether I want to start working or not, my resistance will only grow. And soon, it will be so difficult to overcome that I may fail to accomplish anything productive for the rest of the day. This trick works because, like Leonardo da Vinci said, resistance is greatest at the beginning. Once you start performing an unpleasant task and gain some momentum, it's easier to stick to the task than to give up and return to procrastination. Whenever you catch yourself putting off something unpleasant, act right away and deal with it now. The sooner you act, the sooner you'll be done with it. For example, I always wash the cookware I use to cook my dinner before I eat my meal. This way I can eat my dinner without the unpleasant thought in the back of my mind that I'll not only have to wash the dishes, but also the pots and pans I used for cooking. Small habits like that can help establish a habit of choosing to do the hard things now instead of letting all the hard tasks accumulate like a backlog at work. When you adopt this habit, you'll greatly reduce the impact of procrastination on your life, and enjoy more tranquility to boot. Day 38, on moderation as a good thing. Monks, these two extremes ought not to be practiced by one who has gone forth from the household life. What are the two? There is addiction to indulgence of sense pleasures, which is low, coarse, the way of ordinary people, unworthy, and unprofitable, and there is addiction to self-mortification, which is painful, unworthy, and unprofitable. Avoiding both these extremes, the Tathagata has realized the middle path. It gives vision, gives knowledge, and leads to calm, to insight, to enlightenment and to nibbana. Gautama Buddha. When you set firm resolutions to improve yourself, you might be tempted to push your limits well outside of what you're capable of doing. Ambitiousness is a virtue, but there's danger involved in going from one extreme to another. If you're currently struggling to be productive, don't force yourself to work 16 hours a day. If you're struggling to control your appetite, don't impose a week-long fast. If you can't find it in you to choose the stairs over the elevator, don't expect that you'll maintain a workout plan that requires you to work out every single day. Find the middle path, stick to it for at least several weeks, and then, Based on the results you get, decide whether you can further stretch your limits or require more time before advancing. As much as I believe in pushing your boundaries and exploring the extremes, you don't need to put yourself through mortification to achieve good results. Subjecting yourself to extreme hardships has some merits, but over the long term it's unsustainable, if not downright dangerous. Remember that there should be moderation in all things, including moderation itself. Sometimes a more extreme approach is needed for a short period of time, and sometimes it's beneficial to set your goals lower. In whatever you do, seek to not spend too much time loafing around, but also make sure that your life hasn't turned into the life of a self-flagellating ascetic. Day 39, on moderation as a bad thing. Sometimes moderation is a bad counselor. Fausto Cercignani. In yesterday's entry, we talked about moderation being a good thing. Today we'll approach the topic from a different perspective. Some people use moderation as an excuse to not do their best, often mistaking mediocrity for moderation. Let's call it a day. I've already worked 5 minutes more than yesterday. You gotta stay in balance. Let's stick with the same weight for the next 5 workouts, even though I can easily lift it. Moderation is key. I've already gone down 2 sizes. I guess I'm still a bit overweight, but let's not forget that going to the extreme is a bad thing. If you use moderation as an excuse not to push your limits, you're mistaking moderation with mediocrity. If you're trying to lift a weight that you can barely lift off the floor, some moderation will be good for you. If you're lifting it like it's a feather and telling yourself you're still doing great because at least you're exercising, you're letting mediocrity limit your growth. Sticking to easy things that are well within your grasp isn't moderation. Equating mediocrity with moderation largely comes down to having low standards. A person who thinks that exercising once a week is incredible because most of his friends only exercise with a TV remote will most likely stop challenging themselves well before it would be wise to remember about moderation. That's not to say that you should compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to yourself from the past. If today, a year since you started to exercise, you're still performing the same exercises with little to no improvement, perhaps you've confused moderation with self-congratulation. Moreover, as we've already covered when talking about moderation as a good thing, you should also apply moderation to moderation itself. It's impossible to always follow the sometimes you'll zig and sometimes you'll zag. One day might spend 12 hours working on an important project so that you can spend the entire next day with your family. There's nothing unbalanced in it, as long as you move from an extreme in one thing, like work, to an extreme in another, like family, without staying too long in either one. Middle path. Day 40, on talking versus doing. It is better to practice a little than talk a lot. A Zen saying, attributed to Muso Soseki. Announcing to all of your friends, family members, and colleagues that you're going to change and going deep into details how you're going to do it is useless at best and sabotaging at worst. Firstly, not everyone will be happy to hear that you want to improve yourself because it will make it painfully obvious that they're lazy or don't have as much courage as you do. Instead of support, you can receive criticism that might make you less likely to act upon your dreams. Secondly, research suggests that announcing your plans makes you less motivated to accomplish them. 38 By talking about your plans, you get the erroneous satisfaction that you've already taken action to change yourself and consequently, you're less likely to take real action. If you want to tell your friends about your new goal, choose a person whom you know will support you. In addition, instead of telling them in a self-congratulatory way that you're finally going to achieve your dreams, ask them to hold you accountable if you don't honor your resolution. Day 41, on arrogance. Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go. Marcus Aurelius. Never take self-discipline for granted or assume that if you can control your urges, you're now invincible. Humility plays an important role in helping you maintain self-control. An arrogant person will be more likely to unnecessarily test their willpower, which will eventually lead to their downfall. This happens because of the restraint bias, the tendency for people to overestimate how capable they are of controlling impulsive behaviors. Research shows that people who had an inflated belief in their self-control overexposed themselves to temptations, such as recovering smokers putting themselves in situations tempting them to smoke, which increase the risk of a relapse. Assume that your self-discipline is like prosperity. It's possible that it will stay with you for a long time, but it's also possible that it will disappear. Consequently, you'll work harder to keep it in your life. If it does go away when you make some mistakes, you'll accept it with more tranquility and be more likely to regain it quickly. Day 42, on diligent practice. You can know how to win through strategy with the long sword, but it cannot be clearly explained in writing. You must practice diligently in order to understand how to win. Miyamoto Musashi. Reading hundreds of books, blog posts, articles, and watching countless videos on self-discipline isn't going to automatically reprogram your brain so that one day you'll wake up with the self-control of a samurai. The intention behind this book is to offer you quick, interesting tidbits related to self-discipline that you can easily act upon. No matter how detailed my writings are, you'll always learn more by taking one little action than by reading 10 of my books or rereading the same book over and over again. For example, I can tell you that the greatest amount of willpower is needed during the first few minutes of an uncomfortable task, such as taking a cold shower. Once a couple of minutes pass, your body will adapt to the challenge and it gets easier to handle. But that's just me talking. Go and actually take an ice-cold shower. Experience the wild emotions, start shivering, feel the overpowering temptation to turn on hot water, and wonder if you can last even a second longer, and then, 2 or 3 minutes later, feel your body start to relax, with the ice-cold water no longer feeling like the worst torture in the world. Then step out the shower feeling elated that you managed to overcome your weakness of will. The next time you face an uncomfortable situation, tap into your real-world experience, not mere words read in a book, to realize that, just like with an ice-cold shower, you can adapt to this situation, as well.